The life of Ichigo, Darling in the FRANXX. Ichigo is one of the main characters in Darling in the FRANXX. She's a former parasite with the codename 015 of the 13th Plantation, where she was partnered in a boy-girl pair with Goro to pilot a FRANXX called Delphinium. She was the official leader of Squad 13. Due to her feelings for Hiro, she struggles between her selfishness and her responsibilities as leader. Out of the entire squad, she alienates 02 the most, and almost succeeds in separating her from Hiro for good until she realizes 02 is the only one Hiro loves, which prompts her to give up on him for the sake of his happiness, and she eventually finds a new love in Goro at the end of the series. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Ichigo. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background. Ichigo was raised in the garden where she was trained to become a pistol. Because of her high parasite potential, she obtained the codename 015 and received special treatment because her number was a double-digit number in the teens. One day, Hiro saw Ichigo crying and she wondered if she's strange, since the other kids had stopped showing emotion. She continued to cry, saying that she wanted to be like everyone else and asked if she should get more injections. Although Hiro tried to comfort her by saying that they were special from the start since their codes were in the teens, Ichigo stated that being different is scary. To cheer her up, Hiro said he named himself Hiro and asked Ichigo if she wanted a name too. Hiro gave her the name Ichigo since that's how her codename is read. You know, because 1 and 5 Ichigo. And that's your Japanese lesson for the day. And he told Ichigo that having a name can make someone feel that it's okay to feel different since it's a unique name given only to oneself. Ichigo became very happy to have received a name, and she asked Hiro to name the other kids in the garden, to which he agreed. Ever since, Ichigo has admired Hiro. After that, everyone went along in Hiro's footsteps and began naming each other. Ichigo oversaw code 196 being named Ikuro and being mocked for it. She didn't seem to particularly like that name either. Ichigo goes to her and instead names her Ikuno, which pleases her. Ichigo, Hiro, and Goro became very close friends and were often seen by each other's sides, growing up in the garden together. One day, Hiro commented that Ichigo's bangs had gotten longer and that it would be hard to see, so when they got their annual presents from Papa, Ichigo received a hair clip from Hiro and had worn it ever since. When Ichigo was discharged from the garden at age 14, she was accepted into Plantation 13 squad, where she was partnered with Goro. Though she passed, she was present as Naomi and Hiro failed to connect, devastating her. Alone and Lonesome. Ichigo tries messaging Hiro about the graduation ceremony for tomorrow, but he doesn't respond. Goro asks her about Hiro, and she says he isn't responding. The squad discusses the partner killer rumors about 02. Ichigo mutters Hiro is an idiot if he doesn't show up for the ceremony. Escaping from the Klaxosaur attack the next day, Ichigo attends the graduation ceremony alongside the other parasites, thus becoming an official pistol. She becomes distracted when Hiro doesn't show up, and Goro tells her to focus on the ceremony because Papa is watching. The squad then leaves for their startup ritual and again discuss Hiro's fate. Ichigo is promoted as the leader of the squad. She and Goro were about to ceremonially pilot the Delphinium when a sudden Klaxosaur attack interrupted the ceremony. She, Goro, and the Delphinium were almost vaporized were it not for the timely rescue of Strelitzia. Nana orders the parasites to evacuate, but Strelitzia, after Hiro joins with 02 to help her pilot it, quickly kills the Klaxosaur. Nana introduces 02 to the squad as an elite pistol under the special forces controlled by Ape, and she has Klaxosaur blood. Ichigo realizes 02 is the partner killer, and she's shocked to see Hiro emerge from the cockpit with 02. What it means to connect. Ichigo and the others resume their startup ritual the next day, and she shows concern for Hiro. Afterwards, Ichigo sits on the front patio playing with a cat when Hiro shows up and she talks to him about 02. Although she doesn't know much about her, Ichigo tells Hiro it's best to stay away from 02 due to the rumors about her and he shouldn't pilot with her ever again. Hiro replies if he can't pilot, he's better off dead. Goro tells them that 02 is in the mess hall. Everyone is confused by 02's behavior and Ichigo shows dismay when 02 calls Hiro darling. Nana informs the children she'll be their caretaker like she was in the garden, and Ichigo asks about 02. Nana says they're still waiting for orders on what to do with her and takes 02 with her back to HQ. In the pistol's changing room, Miko and Kokoro talk about how weird it felt connecting with someone else. Ichigo agrees. Miku says she wishes her number was higher like Ichigo and Goro's, and Ichigo is lucky. Miku then talks about 02's behavior around Hiro and how she calls him darling. Ichigo slams her hand against the wall and storms off. The parasites begin connecting and activating their FRANXX, and Hachi says all field decisions will go to Delphinium as the leader unit. Upon connecting, Ichigo and Goro easily activate Delphinium. Afterwards, Ichigo asks 02 why she picked Hiro and says she appreciates her for saving everyone, but Hiro belongs to no one. 02 asks what Hiro is to her, and Ichigo replies she's his squad leader. 02 licks her on the cheek and remarks she tastes sweet, much to Ichigo's confusion. Ichigo later breaks up Zotome and Hiro from fighting after Zotome antagonizes Hiro. When Nana is looking for volunteers to test Hiro's ability to pilot a FRANXX in a mock battle, 02 volunteers. As the leader of the parasites, Ichigo vetoes 02's proposition on the grounds 02 is not a member of the team, effectively taking her place as Hiro's temporary partner. During the mock battle, Ichigo and Hiro reach 100% on the compatibility rating, higher than any other pairing amongst the parasites, even that of Ichigo-Goro. Due to unknown reasons, however, Ichigo and Hiro get desynced shortly after making Delphinium walk towards Argentea. Ichigo inquires Hiro into what 02 did in order to awaken his abilities. Hiro couldn't recall any of it, but he remembers the kiss. Although previously unknown to the concept of a kiss, she orders him to close his eyes and kisses Hiro, which Hiro remarks, "I don't feel a thing. It didn't work." This puts Ichigo on the brink of tears, only to be prevented by Argentea's attack. This forces Ichigo to pilot Delphinium by herself against the orders of Nana. This leads to Hachi calling the mock battle a draw since both units are down, although Nana calls it a reckless conduct, and Hiro being grounded once again. Hiro apologizes, but Ichigo tells him not to, implying it wasn't his fault. Ichigo breaks into tears and glances back at Hiro, silently telling herself, "You were awful." Okay, I have a question before I move on to the next section. Down in the comments, if you're all for 02 Hiro, just say 02 gang, and if you like Ichigo more, please comment Ichigo gang. I need to know. I'm an Ichigo stan. Everyone's gonna hate me now. Fighting puppet. Ichigo meets with Hiro after he's scanned, and he reports the doctors didn't find anything wrong with him. It's been awkward for both of them since the kiss. The squad discusses what happened to Hiro. Mitsuru downplays Hiro's abilities and says he was simply taken along for the ride, but Ichigo inserts belief in Hiro's abilities. Nana and Hachi order the squad to sortie against a horde of Klaxosaurs, and Strelitzia will not be taking part in the mission because they have to learn to defend the plantation on their own. Before boarding Delphinium, Goro asks Ichigo if the mock battle bothered her and tells her to switch gears since they'll be going into actual combat. She's about to say something but stops herself and says she will do her best. When it's announced Chlorophytum will stay behind, Delphinium, Genista, and Argentea set out to descend to the 8th floor of a drilling facility to neutralize the Klaxosaurs nearby. They quickly eliminate them, but their magma energy weapons attract a horde of Klaxosaurs, forcing the units to retreat. Hachi tells them Strelitzia is heading their way as backup. Ichigo demands to know who's piloting it and remembers her kiss with Hiro, which begins to cut off her connection with Goro. When their exit is blocked off by Klaxosaurs, Ichigo regrets thinking of such unnecessary things and questions her responsibility as a leader. Strelitzia, piloted by 02 and Mitsuru, begins killing the Klaxosaurs and gives the units time to escape. Ichigo and the others later see Strelitzia being retrieved, and 02 emerges from the cockpit, while Mitsuru is on the verge of death. Flap Flap. After seeing Mitsuru injured and traumatized from piloting with 02 and telling Hiro she tried to devour his body, soul, and flesh, Ichigo becomes deeply concerned. She tells Hiro she can't trust 02 after what happened with Mitsuru and questions Hiro's decision to ride with her. She tells him that if the rumors are true, 02 will kill him. Despite this, Hiro persists on riding with her to fulfill his purpose in life. The squad later discusses Hiro and 02 and the rumors about her. Ichigo sees Ikuno is sad at failing to connect with her FRANXX and touches her shoulder, saying she will connect next time. Ichigo reminds everyone that if things don't change, they'll all die at some point. She tells them that they need to kill Klaxosaurs without Strelitzia and can't mess up again to survive, and asks them to help her work as a team. A worm-like Klaxosaur appears near the plantation, and Hachi orders them to sortie. They initially manage to hold it down, but more Klaxosaur begin appearing. Strelitzia shows up to help, and Ichigo orders everyone to focus and asks Hiro to help her. With Strelitzia's aid, the squad eliminates the Klaxosaurs with ease. Your Thorn, my badge. The squad witnesses Plantations 13 and 26 commence kissing to transfer magma energy fuel. They're confused why it's called kissing and realizes it will attract more Klaxosaurs. Futoshi and Zorome say they will be fine as long as they have Strelitzia, and Ichigo sadly agrees. The two squads participate in a friendship ceremony the next day and are praised by the mayor. The squad discusses the ceremony and their fear of the upcoming battle, but trust Strelitzia. They express their relief that Hiro is functioning despite their uneasiness with 02, and he thanks them for his support. The next morning, Ichigo runs into Hiro during breakfast and she fixes his collar, which takes him aback and his response surprises her. Ichigo discusses the upcoming battle and situation with Nana, who says 02 will remain there and Hiro being promoted to a stamen is likely. When Ichigo leaves, Goro is waiting for her in the hallway. On the elevator, they discuss Hiro's state and how happy he has become since piloting Strelitzia. They decide to focus on the upcoming battle since it will likely become the most difficult one they will face, and Ichigo says they can only focus on their own lives. Ichigo prepares a room for 02 and lays down the rules, which makes 02 call her bossy, and Ichigo gets irritated. During a meeting, they rendezvous with Squad 26, and Hachi lays out their strategy for the battle, in which Squad 26 will be on the front lines and Squad 13 will be the last line of defense. Squad 13 expresses their distaste in being used as backups. Goro suggests Strelitzia shouldn't take part in the battle, but Ichigo surprises everyone when she says they'll need Strelitzia. Later that night, Ichigo takes 02 outside near the greenhouse. Ichigo tells 02 to stay in line and follow her orders. 02 calls her bossy and begins to walk off. Ichigo stops her and tells her not to be hard on Hiro. 02 says it was Hiro's choice to ride with her, and Ichigo warns her that he may die. 02 retorts then that he means that he was no use after all, causing Ichigo to slap her and lash out that she isn't human. 02's limiter falls off and her horns and eyes turn red, angrily asking what being human means to her. Ichigo is frightened and walks away when 02 becomes distracted by the rain. Ichigo returns to the boarding house and is met by Goro, who puts a towel over her. She asks if he saw everything, and he said he did. Ichigo expresses her frustration that she doesn't understand why she feels this way and starts crying. Goro also doesn't understand his feelings and doesn't know how to comfort her. Darling in the FRANXX. Ichigo is in the bathroom while waiting for the battle to commence. After coming out of the changing room, she meets with Goro, who advises her to talk with Hiro and pushes her towards him. They discuss the battle and Hiro praises Ichigo's ability to lead them, and she thanks him for being like a sibling to her and Goro before he leaves with 02. In their FRANXX, Ichigo tells Goro that Hiro sends his regards and they will save Strelitzia for later. The two squads then head out for the battle. Squad 13 battles a horde of Conrad Klaxosaurs. Delphinium saves Janista from being attacked by a Klaxosaur. Ichigo tells Zorome to bait the Klaxosaur without getting too close since Argentia is fast, and she tells Mitsuru to stay close to Janista and back it up. Strelitzia begins to battle the Klaxosaur, but Hiro begins to show strain, and Ichigo tells him to stay back, but he persists. Target Beta reveals itself to be a Gutenberg Klaxosaur, and Hachi orders Squad 26 to roll back so Squad 13 can deal with it. Although the group agrees they need Strelitzia, Ichigo orders they stay put and it'll deliver the finishing blow. Hiro then begins dying from the effects of riding with 02 for the third time, and his connection with 02 severs, causing 02 to pilot Strelitzia in stampede mode. Ichigo breaks down and disconnects with Goro, thinking Hiro is dead. Ichigo blames herself for not stopping Hiro from piloting Strelitzia, and Goro tells her they need to worry about themselves right now. To everyone's shock, Strelitzia activates again when Hiro miraculously survives and reconnects with 02. After eliminating the Klaxosaur, the two squads celebrate, and Ichigo tearfully hugs Hiro. Shooting Star Moratorium. For the successful kissing, Squad 13 is awarded a trip to the beach. Ichigo tells Goro that Nana will pick them up in the morning, and Goro wonders if this is a test. Ichigo doesn't know, but since there seems to be no Klaxosaurs around, they should enjoy themselves. She's completely oblivious to Goro admiring her figure. Ichigo watches Hiro and 02 play in the water and reveals the two have been made as official partners. And although she still has doubts about her, Ichigo is thankful for 02 making Hiro happy. Ichigo talks with Ikuno for a bit before Ikuno tells her to go swimming for a bit. Ichigo later sees Goro, Futoshi, and Zorome talking with Hiro, and Zorome attempting to kiss Hiro after Hiro explains what a kiss is to them. Futoshi asks her if she knows what it is, and she blushes while denying it. Miku and Kokoro tell them that Mitsuru found something unusual. It turns out to be remnants of an abandoned town. As they explore it, Ichigo comes across an old bookstore and sees a poster of a couple kissing, making her recall her kiss with Hiro. 02 comes behind her and surprises her by saying she's done it with Hiro. Ichigo is surprised and asks what, and 02 responds, kissing. Ichigo says she has done it too, but refuses to say with who. 02 clarifies it should be done with someone special to her. Goro and Hiro then call out to them. As the group sits around a campfire, they discuss humanity's previous civilizations before the plantations. Ichigo then finally welcomes Hiro and 02 into the squad. After everyone goes to sleep, Ichigo is awake and notices Hiro walking along the beach. She follows him and they walk together. She points out the Orion within the stars and says Hiro was the one who taught her about the stars, although he doesn't remember. She asks him about the Ichigo star, which he says is the 15th starfish Orion, the same as her code number. He also remembers they promised to look at the stars after leaving the garden. Ichigo tells him she will do her best as a leader and tells him not to give all his attention to 02. She says she sees their kiss as special, but before she can confess her feelings to him, Hiro points out the shooting stars. He tells her that if she makes a wish to the stars, it'll come true, and asks her what she wishes for. Ichigo says she tried telling him and calls him stupid. She secretly says she wished for the night to never end. Boys and girls. During a battle, a Klaxosaur spills goo on the FRANXX units and the girls' parasites start melting in front of the boys. Ichigo orders the boys to focus on the battle, oblivious as to why they're distracted until Hiro finally tells 02 what happened. The girls wear towels to cover themselves while glaring at the boys. While the girls shower, they wonder if the boys were ogling at them at the beach too, and Miku convinces them they should start living separately from the boys by splitting the house apart. Ichigo, Miku, and Ikuno reprimand the boys for walking in their underwear after bathing in the lake. Ichigo is surprised Goro, of all people, suggested the idea. The girls are then dismayed that the boys have taken over the dining area. Goro suggests they drop the rules and eat together, but Ichigo sees it as a trap and has to drag Miku away from joining the boys. The girls gather rations from the attic to eat and go to the first floor where they find a set of doors sealed off and wonders what it means. They're met by 02 and demand to know which side she's on. 02 calls it a lame game, but Ichigo retorts they're serious. 02 then agrees to join them. However, she makes things worse by tricking the boys into walking in on the girls bathing, causing the girls to throw supplies at the boys until Nana and Hachi intervene. Ichigo asks 02 what she was thinking for doing that, and 02 says if they half-ass things, they will never become adults, and they're going to die sooner or later anyway. Kokoro convinces the girls they need the boys for some things, such as piloting the FRANXX and, without saying it, having children. Everyone but Miku regrets how things happened, but Miku runs off and hides in one of the abandoned rooms that belonged to the former squad. 02 says the former squad was killed in combat some time ago, making everyone realize they need to get to know one another more, so they reconcile. Ichigo and Goro shake hands as they make up. Triangle Bomb. The squad receives their annual presents from Papa, and Ichigo gets a stuffed plushie. Goro says she asked for something childish, and she says it doesn't matter. Zorome reads the letter Papa wrote for them, and they're happy as the letter praises them. Ichigo watches Hiro give 02 a mirror as a gift. Goro looks at Ichigo's hair clip and remembers when he tried giving her one, but she already got one from Hiro when they were children. Goro later tells Hiro that he can tell only Hiro makes Ichigo happy, and he has always been her hero. And Goro is starting to understand he loves Ichigo, but tells Hiro she feels that way for Hiro, who, as most protagonists in anime, is surprised. Ichigo later takes her hairpin off, and she and Ikuno go to bed. Hachi reports a Gutenberg Klaxosaur has been detached 2,000 meters away. Hiro looks at Ichigo but turns away when she looks at him. The FRANXX units approach the Klaxosaur, and Argentea charges straight towards it, but is almost absorbed. Delphinium rescues it, but is absorbed instead. Goro ejects Ichigo from the unit and detonates explosives to try to kill it, but he fails, and without Ichigo, he can't operate Delphinium. Ichigo recovers from being ejected but is angry at everyone for leaving Goro behind. Miku argues with Ichigo, berating her for calling herself the leader but breaking down when things are tough, and Goro must be miserable as her partner. Nana tells them to break it up and they discuss new information on the Klaxosaur. Hachi tells them to focus on keeping the Klaxosaur away from the plantation, and Hiro asks if they're willing to leave Goro to die. Nana says in the worst case possible, they absolutely will. Everyone, especially Ichigo and Hiro, refuse to accept this, and Ichigo demands to speak to Goro. Via communications monitor, she first berates him for his reckless actions, but vows to rescue him no matter what. Janista and Chlorophytum stay as a last line of defense while Strelitzia and Argentea take Ichigo to the Klaxosaur. Although they don't know what will happen, and 02 says she wouldn't do it if it were herself, Ichigo insists she believes in 02. Strelitzia helps her enter the Klaxosaur and she swims to Delphinium. Upon entering through the unit entrance, she says the air is thin and he is headstrong but weak. She also says that they can't win alone, but together they can. They reconnect and drop a bomb on the Klaxosaur before exiting the Klaxosaur, and all the units retreat and the Klaxosaur explodes. Afterwards, Ichigo tends to Goro and bandages him. He asks her where her hairpin is, and she panics that she lost it. He gives her the hairpin he's been wanting to give to her for a long time, and admits he loves her. She blushes but smiles and thanks him for being her partner. However, she doesn't know how to respond to his confession, and he says he wasn't expecting a reply before collapsing in her arms. The City of Eternity. For the squad's achievements, they're invited to the city to receive medals, and obviously they're all excited. They're amazed at how beautiful and advanced the city is as they arrive at the HQ Parliament. The mayor praises Ichigo for her abilities as the leader, and she embarrassingly thanks him. They convince Nana to let them walk around the city before returning to Mistletoe, and Zorome wonders if he will live there when he becomes an adult. Ichigo says she can picture any of them becoming adults. The squad worries when Zorome gets separated from them, but are relieved when he's found. Partner Shuffle. Due to Mitsuru and Ikuno's incompatibility, Nana suggests the group try a partner shuffle. Ichigo and Goro initially are reluctant to change partners, but when Ikuno asks Ichigo to try a pistol-pistol connection with her, Ichigo reluctantly agrees. After 160 seconds pass, Ikuno asks if she feels anything, and Ichigo says no. Nana announces Delphinium has timed out. Ichigo says she knew it wouldn't work without a boy, but Ikuno retorts she was serious. A Gutenberg Klaxosaur approaches the drilling facility, and the group heads out to sortie. Strelitzia starts to ignore commands, and Ichigo orders 02 to hold back and stick to the plan. When Janista is knocked down, Delphinium and the other units try to hold the Klaxosaur off long enough for Kokoro and Mitsuru to reconnect. The garden where it all began. The squad returns to the garden to undergo testing, and Hiro suggests they use the chance to see Naomi, although Nana bars them from leaving the lab. Upon arriving, they're met by the Nines, and Alpha wonders what it is that 02 sees in them. Ichigo defends 02, saying she prefers her over any of the Nines. She introduces herself as the leader, and Alpha is amused, but surprised the girls by kissing her hand. Alpha also asks they return 02 safe and sound. Ichigo asks what he means, and he says all parasites are being relocated to one location. Ichigo looks at Nana for answers, but Nana says they will discuss that later. Alpha says he'd love to be a part of her squad, but she says that they have no space other than the attic. Alpha notes how proud and dignified she is. After the tests are done, they disobey orders and explore the garden, and recall memories from their childhood. They're surprised to see the children are being developed into parasites at a faster rate due to the recent Klaxosaur attacks. When a Klaxosaur attacks the garden, the squad is dispatched and Strelitzia goes rogue from commands, and the group is left shocked as 02 brutally slaughters the Klaxosaur. Ichigo later eavesdrops on Nana and Hachi discussing the sarification process in 02 and Hiro is intensifying, and Hiro is likely to undergo a massive genetic mutation, much to her horror. When another Klaxosaur appears, the group is horrified when 02 starts beginning to attack Hiro. The Beast and the Prince. In a flashback, Hiro remembers when Ichigo cried for not being emotionless like the other children, and she found being different to be scary. Hiro offers to give her a name and chose Ichigo because, as he explained, having your own name means it's okay to be different, and you are your own person. Ichigo was amazed and asked Hiro to give the other children names, which he did before some of the adults told them they can't change their code numbers without permission. Ichigo was with Goro and Hiro when they saw many children disappear and got no answers from the adults. Back in the present, Ichigo uses Delphinium to restrain Strelitzia and breaks her arm in the process. Ichigo orders Hiro to get away from 02, or else she will devour his humanity. Punishment and confession. 02 and Hiro realize they knew each other as children. Ichigo suddenly interrupts and throws her off of him. 02 goes to talk to Hiro but is stopped by Ichigo. Alright, this is probably the episode where I started to hate Ichigo. You know, she's still best girl. She blames her for his hospitalization and says she can't see him again. Goro and Miku tell her to calm down. When Ichigo reveals that Hiro will lose his humanity, the rest of the parasites don't believe her and asks 02. She tells them to shut up and mind their own business. Ichigo stops her again from seeing him and says that she isn't a member of their team. Hachi announces they must neutralize every Klaxosaur inhabiting Grand Crevice. Nana says that it's a joint operation with the Nines and FRANXX squad from each plantation. He says that Squad 13 is scheduled to be part of the 6th wave. Nana says it will be their most difficult mission, and Ichigo raises her hand. She asks that 02 is removed from Squad 13 as of that mission, and if not, Squad 13 will not participate in the operation. Nana says that she was set to return to the Nines as of the mission anyway. 02 protests, but the parasites stop her from seeing him. When Hiro gets up, he's stopped by Miku. 02 is also guarded and prevented from leaving her room. Ichigo comes in to see Hiro and they chat. She gives him an apple. She tells him that 02 is returning to the Nines the next night. She asks if he hates her and says that, even if he does, not to go anywhere. Hiro apologizes and Ichigo cuts her thumb, so Hiro bandages it for her. 02 remembers what Ichigo said and thinks that she knew she could never be a human. Ichigo leaves the knife and apple. 02 breaks out of her room as Ichigo returns, and she roughly throws Goro against a window. Goro tells Ichigo to let her see him, and Kokoro agrees. Ichigo says that she can meet him, but they're all going to be there. When they enter the room, it's empty as Hiro used the knife to escape. 02 becomes enraged and says that they tricked her. Hiro goes to her room. Hiro asks through the door if 02 knew about their past all along, but opens the door to find the room destroyed. Afterward, Hiro returns to the hospital and finds all his teammates strangled with 02 attacking Ichigo. Ichigo tells him to run, and 02 asks to speak with Hiro, who calls her a monster for attacking his friends. 02 leaves as everyone watches. As she goes away, Hiro cries and begins to go after her, only to be immediately stopped by Ichigo, who begs him not to leave before kissing him and confessing her love to him. Ichigo tells Hiro that she doesn't regret their kiss in the mock fight and she wants to be with him forever, which Goro overhears. She says that she always loved him while 02's ship flies overhead. This episode gave me conflicting feelings because I always liked Ichigo as a partner for Hiro because, I feel like childhood friends never win. But this one is just like overcorrection in the wrong way, which I totally understand why everyone hated Ichigo after this. Anyway, on to the next section. The bird that shares wings. Hachi tells Squad 13 that their objective is to take control of Grand Crevice. Hiro still misses 02 as he watches her fight a Klaxosaur in the monitor, but Ichigo grasps his hand. Before the squad leaves for the battle, Ichigo promises to teach Hiro how to pilot when she gets back, and smiles when Hiro thanks them for their support. Ichigo is amazed how the Nines neutralize the Klaxosaurs and compares them to Strelitzia. She sarcastically thanks Alpha for complimenting her unit. The squad struggles to fight against the Klaxosaurs, and Ichigo watches Strelitzia fight in stampede mode before Goro tells her to focus. They notice a training unit and realize it's Hiro. Ichigo tries to stop him, but Goro suddenly stops her and says he can't keep watching. He tells Hiro to get in because he knows Hiro has something to say, and Ichigo can't deny she's worried about 02 as well. Hiro apologizes to Ichigo, and when they connect, she sees his thoughts are all of 02. She's sad that he will never have space in his heart for her, and cries. Ichigo charges at 02 and admits she wished she never knew her. Ichigo demands she get her act together as their respective units fight, and Hiro is able to enter Strelitzia's cockpit to reconcile and reconnect with 02. As Strelitzia evolves, Ichigo cries and says she's happy for them. The Klaxosaur is killed, but its cores are still active and about to detonate until a colossal hand appears from the ground and stops the cores, soaring the squad and Miss Sultine. Days of our lives. A month passes since the battle at Grand Crevice, and the squad has been left alone in their boarding house. The damage to the plantation restricted their access to water and maintenance, forcing them to develop a daily schedule for chores and eat rations to survive. During breakfast, Ichigo asks Ikuno how she feels after coming down with a fever, and Ikuno says she's fine. 02 feels her forehead and says it's normal, and asks her not to push herself. Everyone compliments 02 for keeping a meticulous schedule on their chores. Ichigo agrees and smiles. The girls bathe in the lake. The squad later meets to discuss 5 sources to get water, but 2 of them are usable for filtering. They realize how easy it was when their caretakers provided necessities for them. 02 suggests they cook their own food, and everyone agrees. Ichigo greets Hiro, 02, and Goro after they return from fishing, and everyone laughs when Hiro admits he didn't catch any. Goro asks Ichigo how she's doing, and she replies the mood has changed. As 02 teaches the others how to fish, Ichigo says Hiro was right about 02 being a normal girl, and she never attempted to understand 02, remembering how she comforted 02 after the battle at Grand Crevice. Everyone marvels how they made their own food. Ichigo is about to pray, but Zorome tells her not to because they shouldn't have to pray to Papa after doing all the work themselves. Ichigo tastes the bread Ikuno and Miku made and says it's good. After dinner, everyone wonders if they've all been casted aside by Papa and find the future to be scary, but they all resolve to work hard to survive. Eden. Ichigo and the rest of the squad is dismayed when the Nines unexpectedly show up and announce they were sent by Papa, who has been worried. Miku and Zorome are relieved, but everyone is again unhappy when Alpha says he and the Nines will be staying with them. And Ichigo is surprised when Alpha says he's taken a liking for her. She's again surprised when he says all the surviving parasites have been gathered in one location, and she wonders why they were left out. During breakfast, Ichigo tells one of the Nines she assumed they've come to take 02 back, but he replies they're not her babysitters, but her squad mates. The next day, Ichigo tells Mitsuru she found out what happened between him and Kokoro after Zorome tells everyone he saw them in an embrace. Alpha comes in with a baby book Kokoro had been hiding and demands an explanation. Kokoro admits she wants to have a baby, which confuses her friends. Alpha says Papa banned that, but Kokoro explains it's how all humans, including themselves, were born, and she wants to leave a mark for the future before she dies. Alpha calls her disgusting, and says humans have casted their gender for evolution, and it's a nuisance. Ikuno slaps Alpha before Ichigo and Goro hold her back. Later that night, everyone discusses Kokoro's words. Ichigo looks at Ikuno when she says everyone has things they can't talk about, and they all wonder if they can make babies, but wonder how they were born if Papa didn't create them. 02 says humans are wonderful because they have the ability to leave a mark behind. When the Sakura blooms, Ichigo meets Hachi, who says the squad will be picked up from Mistletoe soon and taken to the bird nest. She realizes despite him and Nana ignoring them for so long, they've been watching them all along via monitors throughout the house. She meets with Hiro and Goro in the hallway. On their way back to Mistletoe, Ichigo wonders if they can stay a little longer, but Goro says they have a few rations left and Mistletoe won't last much longer. Goro also says their lives there weren't that bad, and Ichigo is sad they have to leave. Hiro stops them and says he wants to do something. Hiro explains to everyone he wants to hold a wedding for Kokoro and Mitsuru, who have decided to get married before they leave. Everyone voices their full support, and Ichigo looks at Ikuno, who appears troubled. Ichigo and Miku gather curtains from the rooms and make a wedding dress for Kokoro. In the room Kokoro and Mitsuru have been sleeping in, Ichigo notices a camera. Ichigo checks on Ikuno and asks if she's under the weather. Ikuno says she's fine. Ichigo wonders if something's wrong because she's never seen Ikuno so angry like she was with Alpha. Ikuno says it's nothing, and Ichigo apologizes for prying. Ichigo also thanks Ikuno for standing up for Kokoro and Mitsuru. Ikuno says she didn't do it for them and sits up before asking Ichigo if she's interested in her. Ikuno holds Ichigo down on the bed and says she's hated the boy-girl pairing system and she slapped Alpha for that. Ichigo is surprised when Ikuno reveals she has been in love with her ever since Ichigo gave her her name when they were in the garden, but she says her feelings are a mess because she doesn't understand why she feels like this and she wants to keep Ichigo all to herself. Ichigo hugs Ikuno, who starts crying, and says there's nothing wrong with being a pain because they all are. Everyone paints the house, and Ichigo pulls Ikuno outside to pose for a group picture. On the day of the wedding, Ichigo sits in attendance and remarks how beautiful Kokoro looks. However, the Nines and an ape assault unit interrupt the wedding and take Kokoro and Mitsuru away. The others reluctantly leave Mistletoe and worry about their two friends. A couple of weeks pass after arriving at the bird nest when Ichigo receives a message and they reunite with Kokoro and Mitsuru. However, the two have no recollection of the wedding or each other, and 02 points out that their memories have been altered. Inhumanity. Goro says Kokoro and Mitsuru have been implanted with fake memories. Ichigo wonders if what they did was so bad to warrant such punishment. Hiro walks in and Ichigo asks about 02, and he says she needs some final tune-ups. He announces he plans to confront Papa, who justifies his actions because such unnecessary emotions would have hindered Ape's objectives. Everyone is enraged, and Hiro demands they be released from duty since they no longer see him as their Papa, and he agrees as long as they win the final battle. A new world. The new Nana tells the squad the star entity is under their control and they'll have to board it the next day. Everyone wonders where the original Nana is, but she doesn't answer them. Ichigo asks what star entity is, and the new Nana says it's a Klaxosaur weapon. Ichigo says it's risky, but the new Nana simply smiles. Kokoro becomes nauseous and runs to the bathroom to throw up. Ichigo, Miku, and Ikuno follow her. Ikuno says it's been happening a lot lately, and Ichigo suggests Kokoro not take part in the battle. Kokoro says she must fight for Papa even if she dies. The girls are deeply troubled, and Miku says they don't belong to Papa and have to leave a mark for the future like Kokoro once told them. The Parasites attend an assembly meeting and they're later mocked by the Nines. 02 defends her friends because, unlike the Nines, they look forward to the future. Ichigo holds 02's shoulder and shows her gratitude for standing up for them. They all then head to battle. Janista stalls when Kokoro and Mitsuru call each other by name and feel pain in their heads, and the other units come to help them. When the Klaxosaur princess connects with Strelitzia and forces Hiro to link with her, she sends her words to all the parasites and says Klaxosapiens are male-female pilots of Klaxosaurs just like the FRANXX, and the FRANXX were built by remnants of Klaxosaurs, shocking the parasites that they've been kept in the dark about this. The Klaxosaurs stop fighting against the parasites and look at the sky as an armada of ships appear, called Verm. For you, my love. Everyone is confused on who they should be fighting as the Klaxosaurs and Verm start fighting. Hearing the Verm are invaders and Star Entity will detonate as a bomb to destroy the planet, Ichigo orders everyone to return to Grand Crevice to find out what's happening. They are confronted by the Nines, and Alpha berates them for leaving their positions and ignoring Papa's orders. Ichigo shows they can't get in touch with him and have to analyze the situation to come up with their own decisions. The Nines berate them for thinking they're special and begin brutally killing Klaxosaurs. They arrive at Grand Crevice and rush to get 02 and Dr. FRANXX to the entrance of Star Entity to save Hiro. The corridor is blocked off and Verm soldiers confront them. Janista and Argentia hold the Verm off while Chlorophytum blasts through the corridor in full power, but shuts down when Ikuno becomes weakened and her hair turns white. Ichigo orders Janista and Argentia to take Chlorophytum while she and Goro take 02 and the doctor to the entrance. Upon arriving, a Verm soldier attacks and Delphinium fights it, but when the Verm pushes it down and rips its arm off, causing Ichigo to scream in pain, Goro forces the FRANXX to push the Verm down a shaft with it. When the battle ends, Ichigo and the others are shown to have survived, but 02 is left in a catatonic state. Stargazers. The squad is put in charge of caring for the other surviving parasites, and they attempt to grow crops to grow food to eat and survive. During a meeting, they discuss their limited access to water and maintenance, and they can't use magma energy, so they'll have to keep farming. Ichigo asks Hiro about magma energy, but he doesn't answer. She smiles and says they have to survive any way possible. She also asks him to ask her for anything. A girl runs in and says they have a problem. Ichigo sees the Nines have been refusing to eat since yesterday. Alpha says they don't need food, but maintenance. Ichigo leaves their food on the table and leaves. Ichigo sits in a bench when Goro gives her a hot beverage and says the new Nana refused to give him more supplies. Ichigo remembers an old saying Hiro told her, "No man can swim in the same river water twice." Both are troubled how hard the outside world is. Ichigo works in the field with others and notices how tired Ikuno is, asking her not to push herself. Hiro then comes to work in the field despite looking exhausted from caring for 02. A Klaxosaur and Verm soldier crash into the field after killing each other, and more Klaxosaurs fly into space. Ichigo is present in the infirmary when the new Nana announces Kokoro is pregnant and gives her the choice to have an abortion or give birth. Kokoro panics over what she should do, and Miku asks the boys to leave while the girls stay to comfort Kokoro. The next day, the squad finds that the crops have died, and Ichigo says they followed the instructions. An aircraft lands, and they're surprised to see Hachi and Nana, who's in a wheelchair. Hachi surmises the crops died because years of magma energy drilling deprived the soil of life. Ichigo collapses and Ikuno tends to her. Goro gives Ikuno pills, and Ikuno says Ichigo has been so worried about everyone else that she has been neglecting herself. Ichigo's with the others when Goro tells them Mistletoe has fresh soil that can be used for growing crops, making everyone happy. However, Hiro announces he's going to space to rescue 02, whose mind is linked with Strelitzia, and she's fighting the Verm alone. Although told it's a suicide mission, Hiro refuses to change his mind. As Goro condemns him for disregarding everyone else's feelings, running off to die while everyone's working hard to survive, Ichigo sheds tears when Hiro replies he's better off dead if 02 doesn't smile at him, and Goro punches him. Later that night, everyone sits outside and watches a meteor shower. Ichigo sits next to Goro and thanks him. He says it's not about everyone but himself, and he's afraid of the world they live in. Ichigo recites Hiro's old saying, and that they have to live their own lives. The next morning, everyone meets with Hiro as he's about to leave. Ichigo tells him they're going with him to rescue 02. The Nines offer to join them because they merely want to fulfill their purpose and plan to make space their grave. Ichigo says they don't plan to die and will come back to grow more crops. Darling and the FRANXX. Again. The units randomly fly through space and all agree they can move more freely before Hachi orders them to return to the ship. As Hiro looks at the group picture, Ichigo and Goro stand by him. Ichigo says they will get 02 back and reminds Goro he has something to tell Hiro. Goro apologizes for hitting Hiro, who laughs and says not to worry about it. Ichigo says if Goro was going to apologize, he shouldn't have hit him in the first place. When the ship arrives at Mars' orbit, a massive battle between the Klaxosaurs and Verm is happening with Strelitzia in the center. Hiro and Alpha rush into the battle with the others following to provide backup. A Verm fleet forms a barrier to keep them from getting closer to Strelitzia. Ichigo orders Hiro to head straight to Strelitzia while they will cover for him. Argentia blasts an opening for Hiro, who manages to reach Strelitzia after Alpha sacrifices himself. The battle becomes intense for the squad until Hiro and 02 reconcile and reconnect, causing Strelitzia to evolve into Strelitzia True Apus and eliminates the Verm fleet. 2 satellites appear from 2 rocks and create a warp gate. Hiro explains he and 02 will enter it and leave the solar system, much to their friends' confusion. Ichigo tearfully asks why they have to go, and 02 says it's to put an end to the war. After 02 takes a Klaxosaur bomb and prepares to go through it, Ichigo suggests they all go, but Hiro says only Strelitzia can withstand going through. Ichigo says she won't let them, but then says they better come back alive on her orders. She tells 02 to come back with Hiro, and they'll build a home and wait for them, moving 02 to tears. After they leave through the gate, Ichigo and Goro sadly bid them farewell. Never let me go. 72 days after the gate passage, Ichigo and the other parasites return to Mistletoe and find their former home destroyed, which saddens them. They also find plants are still alive. They begin harvesting the plants and start farming in the fields to grow crops. Ikuno begins researching, and when Ichigo asks what the documents are needed for, Ikuno says there's something she wants to get done. 245 days after the gate passage, when Kokoro gives birth to her and Mitsuru's daughter Ai, Ichigo, Ikuno, Miku, and the other girls are present. Ichigo is emotional and happily watches as Mitsuru meets and bonds with his daughter. When the comatose children, including Naomi, are awakened and join the other children, Ichigo and the other girls tearfully hug her. When Goro later decides to go on a journey to gather supplies needed to help the parasites survive and to rescue any children left behind, everyone bids him farewell, and Ichigo tells him to stay in contact with them. He then kisses Ichigo and leaves, and she blushes furiously. During the winter, Ichigo finds 02's storybook and is baffled to see the last page blank. 783 days after the gate passage, while Ai plays near 02's statue, she begins saying darling. Her parents overhear this and tell their squad mates about it. They surmise the statue can link them to Hiro and 02 in space. Ichigo and her friends link arms and shout to them their thoughts. After a while, more and more of the parasites begin joining. Their voices eventually reach the two. Ichigo and Goro reaffirm their belief the two will return. When Hiro and 02 sacrifice themselves in order to destroy Verm's home planet, Ichigo sheds tears but states they will improve their world and society so both of them can come home anytime. 10 years since the gate passage, everyone has stopped using the magma energy and created a self-sufficient lifestyle. Ichigo finishes 02's book so future generations will know about them, and she's amused how awful Hiro was at drawing. On the day of the school entrance ceremony, Ikuno, who is now a doctor, checks on Ichigo, who is pregnant with her first child and married to Goro. Ikuno is amazed that Ichigo is going to be a mother, and she wonders what the baby will be like. Futoshi comes in with his new bread recipe, and they all talk about Ikuno's research in keeping the former parasite's accelerated aging process under control. When his pregnant wife and children come to get him, Ichigo tells him to go be with his family. Ikuno asks where Goro is, and Ichigo says he will be here soon, as he's still traveling but has decided to stay for a while so he can take care of the baby. Ichigo later reunites with Goro when he returns from his travels and happily hugs her. The former Squad 13 leader reunites at a cherry blossom tree and thanks Hiro and 02, speaking of the lessons they have learned from them and expressing their gratitude for their sacrifice to give them the freedom to live good lives. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, like The Life of Hiro or The Life of 02. You know you want to click them. Anyway, also make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Thank you for watching. Adrian out.